Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Knowledge is Power. Today, our guest is Oliver Dolby, aka the Soul Doctor. Oliver has been on a spiritual path for over 25 years, searching for truth and the light bulb moments that happen when we internally realize that we are reading, hearing, or seeing is true. These moments ring deep within us. The journey of discovery has taken Oliver around the world seeking knowledge and wisdom. He has delved into the ancient world of magical studies, energy healing, and self-development. Oliver has developed techniques for healing the heart, the soul, and combines this with removing negative energy patterns and negative thought forms. Good morning, Oliver. How are you today?
Good morning. Good morning. It's lovely to see you.
We're so happy that you could join us. And some of the ladies in my group were waiting for this day, and they want to know why the Soul Doctor. Where does that come from?
The Soul Doctor. Well, it's a bit of a story. I'll keep it very, 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 very brief. But a few years ago, or actually probably more like 4 years ago, I was in a deep meditation, and I got this message that you'll be able to heal souls. And of course, all my studies up until that point had told me that that was impossible. You know, I'd studied various bits, and I'd learned that souls actually can get stretched away from the body, and they develop holes, energetic holes in them, and that nothing was around at the time that could do that, that could fix that. And in this meditation, I was given this very, very precise procedure to do. And of course, I tried it excitedly, and it didn't work. And I was dumbfounded by why this thing that I'd been given just didn't actually work. And so I had to go back into meditation, and I realized that the soul and the heart are linked. So if you've got a broken heart, it's reflected in your soul. You can, and we talk about the eyes being the window to the soul. And when you look into somebody's eyes, you can see the state of their soul. And if they're going through hardship, heartbreak, pain, you see that sadness in the eyes. So that made me go, well, let me start focusing on the heart. And if I focus on the heart, let's see if the soul will work after that. So I started developing a technique that would heal the heart. That would heal all those lost pieces of your heart, because the heart breaks. And when it breaks, and this is from a very early age, by the way, you know, as a small child, the day someone takes a toy away from you and you start crying, there's a little bit of heart energy that's lost there.
Wow.
And of course, then when you become a teenager, obviously, then there's a lot more heart energy you're losing, because you have these crushes and these little relationships that happen, and you lose more heart energy. Just little.
So it keeps leaking out?
It's just leaking, yes. So
okay.
I developed this technique. Of course, as an adult, of course, you know, you go through that real pain, you know, where you've got, you know, loss of loved ones, breakups, you know, divorces, all those sort of things that we all go through in life, where we lose more energy, okay? And so I developed a technique that was going to bring it all back together, so to unite that heart. So it was this beautiful, beautiful new heart. And the beautiful thing about that session is it allows you to start to love yourself first, because we all need love. We all need love. We all desire love. But actually, the only person that can really, really love you is you.
Now, that's kind of counterculture, right?
Of course.
Okay.
We're all looking outside of ourselves to find somebody that's going to fill us up with love. But if you've only got so much love, you can only give so much love. And if you've got a void of love, that's not going to touch sides, is it? So when you start to love yourself, and it's not an easy journey, okay? There are uphills, down, good days, bad days. But when you love yourself, that love starts to flow out of you, and it starts to fill you up. And when you fill, you can give it as much as you like, because you don't become empty. But if you've got half a cup of love, you can only give half a cup, and then you're empty, and you require that back from the other person again. And that's why relationships often are so up and down.
So to love yourself, what does that really mean?
What does it mean to love yourself? Well, it means that you honor yourself as an individual. You honor yourself as a soul. honor yourself as a being, right? You look after yourself energetically. You look after yourself physically. And of course, you do things for you. And that sometimes goes against the grain again, because you start to become a little bit more selfish. Right?
Selfish has a negative connotation to it, right?
But when you're selfish and you're improving yourself and you're loving yourself, you actually start to change the world around you. You start to change the people around you because they sense this love and they themselves start to feel better, to get into a better place.
So when you began your journey, what kinds of things did you do for yourself?
Well, I make time for myself. I make time to have quietness, meditation. Very, very important. To have that time where I can actually sit with no distractions, with no phone, with no pinging in my ears, with no knocking on my door. Okay. And it's hard for us to do that. It's very hard for us to do that these days. We've got so many things on our to-do list that we've got to do. We've got things that we have to do. We need people we need to see, you know, and we feel responsible for all these things. And yet, if you give yourself that little bit of space, 5 minutes to start with, try and get it up to 20 minutes, 25 minutes, right? To actually give yourself, this is my time where I'm just going to sit and be. Okay. And then, of course, there's things like journaling as well. Very, very important, because that starts to clear that mind. You know, just by writing, you start to really clear and get out all that random stuff that's in your head. And you get that onto a piece of paper. And then things go so much better. That's my point.
So during this lockdown year that we're still kind of in, I know there was a lot of isolation, a lot of particularly elderly and people who had other conditions where they really couldn't see anyone, and broken heart syndrome. We've seen one spouse die, and then very soon after, the other spouse dies. Have you been seeing that kind of thing?
Yes, I mean that's going to happen. Whether it was a lockdown pandemic or not, when you have two people that have met and they've lived a life together, when one goes, and they truly love each other, then very, very often the other one will go very soon after that.
Because so energetically, what does that look like?
Energetically, there's okay. So we're moving into this quantum field where we start to have this quantum energetics, where we have this quantum attachment, where people are quantumly joined together. Okay, and we all do it to a certain level with our loved ones and family, where we have these quantum relationships that link, and they pull each other around. Now, obviously, those things can be disintegrated, and if it's not appropriate, then those attachments need to be separated. But for two people that have lived a life together, that are deeply in love, that yes, of course, they've had their ups and downs. That's part of life, of course. But they are connected. They have found their twin flame, their divine union, you know, the soulmate, all the words that people use. It's very often that they do go. Only if that person has done what they're here to do. Because as spiritual beings, we come here with a set of ideas and a set of things that we're going to do. And we tick them off pretty much as we go through life. And then when we get to the end, we've ticked off the majority of our things we're supposed to do on this planet, then we will go. But yes, healing the hearts has been a big one over this last little while, because people are not able to connect with each other like they used to. You know, we are human beings. We like touch. We need touch. We need to see people's faces. And right now we're covered up from the nose down pretty much, and you don't know whether the person across the road looking at you through this mask is good or bad. You know, right. What sort of fears, anxieties, stresses they have, and they can only see you as well. So are they smiling? You don't know.
That's very, very true. I heard you on an interview talking about babies and their need to be loved right away, and with those young moms. Could you share that with us?
It's a very sad thing, actually. The sort of the teenage or preteen mothers that used to not, I don't think that happened as much, but they used to 20 years ago, a lot of that sort of very, very young mothers. I think these days, thankfully, they're waiting till a bit later, but they haven't really understood about love themselves. Yes, they received love. Now, what happens, they have this baby, they take the baby home, they feed it, clothe it, change its nappy, all that sort of thing. And the baby starts deteriorating and starts getting worse off. And of course, the first thing they do is take it back to the hospital where they had the baby. And the first thing the nurse does is pick the baby up and go, oh, coochie, 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 coo, and cuddle and kisses and all the rest of it. And the baby starts to thrive.
Wow.
Baby goes home with the mother again and starts to deteriorate again because the baby was not getting the love that it needs. We as human beings need love. We cannot live without love. Right?
I've seen this in the hospital. I'm a conventionally trained nurse, and in the early days when I was in the hospital, we call it has a diagnosis for infants and elderly, and it's called failure to thrive. And we've seen babies actually succumb to death because of it.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful statement.
It's a very sad thing. There's really only a couple of things you need in this life. Of course, we all think of oxygen first. Well, of course, we need oxygen. Yes, we do. We all think of food or water. Yes, we need food and water.
Yeah.
But we also need love. It's just as important as the other two. We need to have that love. And we're all looking for it.
If someone doesn't learn to love themselves, then we know we're not really taught this in school or anywhere. What's their chances of having a successful relationship, an intimate relationship?
Okay, well, it depends how long you want the relationship to last for.
Let's say sustaining one.
Sustaining one, you're going to find someone who's going to match you energetically. And yes, you are going to find someone who will match you energetically. We'll both have the same amount of love. Okay, so let's say you've both got I don't know, a teaspoonful of love, okay? And you will share that backwards and forwards between the two of you, okay? Yes, and it'll be successful. Yes, you'll have your ups and downs, and potentially you'll grow more in love, and you'll start to build that energy. I'm always somebody who's very, very hopeful. So I'm not going to say that, you can only have one drop of love, you're not going to find love. No, you are going to find somebody. Work on yourself first. Always work on yourself first. Learn to love yourself. It's hard. If you've got stick out ears and skewed teeth and a bald head and whatever it might be, that people don't even notice about you. You notice about yourself, and you start worrying about those things. You've got to learn to love the hairy legs, the hairy back, whatever it might be. That's not perfect in your world, and be accepting of that. To say, this is who I am right now, and I'm okay with that. And whether it's, whether with a condition of some degree, whether you're diabetic or have something that you're not proud of or ashamed of, allow that, just love that part of you, and it's quite hard. And that's why I say you've got to make the space for it. You've got to make space and say, this is my time now to spend time with myself and to write, to jot down those things.
So I know you have a clinic is it Edgware?
In Edgware in North London.
Yes, and what about now with pandemic? Is it Zoom too?
It is Zoom, yes. I do a lot of sessions now on Zoom. In fact, 99% of my sessions now are on Zoom. I realized that energy, when you connect with someone deeply, there is no space. Right? There is no space. Yes, there is space in our minds, physically, the distance, the rest of it, but energetically, there is no space. Right. So if I go into your aura and remove something that shouldn't be there, it happens instantaneous. Right?
So then is there a certain type of client that comes to you, or a certain kind of issue?
So generally people who've gone through trauma, when we've got those quantum entanglements with other people and places, it can be sort of relationship breakups, It can be some sort of stress or trauma that they've lived through. That seems to be one of my key areas. And of course, then the broken heart. The broken heart is an area that I love working with. I'm passionate about the heart, as you probably realized. I could talk forever on how we go through this roller coaster of life, and we're always, working with our heart energy. And in fact, we experience all of our energy, all of our emotions through our heart, even though sometimes we don't necessarily feel them in our heart. We might feel them as prickles up our neck or nervousness in the bottom of the stomach, those sort of things. So trauma, and then the broken heart, and then really people who want to empower themselves to step up to the next level, to get out of that box that society puts us in. Society has this beautiful way of saying, you're a healer, so you're going into that box. You're an accountant, you're going to that box. You're a massage therapist, so you go into that box. And whatever trade or profession you have, society likes to box us and make us little neat packages. And of course, we're not that box, right?
We try to fit in it.
We try and fit in it, and we don't. We can't, right? And sometimes society says, well, that's what, or sometimes our parents or our peers say, this is who you are, right? You can't be our friend unless you fit in this box. And of course,
that's traumatic in itself.
Because we don't fit in boxes. There's only one time you fit in a box, and that's when you stop breathing. Okay, and we're not going there, going down there.
I'm not in a hurry for that box.
No, most definitely not. So, yeah, I break down those boxes so people can see their potential.
So how, if someone came to you, for example, with a broken heart, how many sessions? Is it an average, or does it depend?
Okay, so
what could someone expect?
Is slightly different.
Yes.
Firstly, I want to say that I'm not one of those people that wants to see you for the next 6 years, 10 years, 20 years, like some therapists. I have 4 to 6 as a maximum of sessions. So usually 4 sessions. That's what I like to work with. And of course, if people have things that come into your life, then obviously, yes, you can drop it. But I'm not the therapist that you want to see for the rest of your life, because I'm empowering you. My goal is, after 4 sessions, that you have enough knowledge, enough understanding of yourself, that you can actually take what we've learned and gone through together out into the world to make your life better. Because you make your life better, not the person you at the other end, not the spiritual coach or the therapist or the life coach or whatever is at the other end. They are my idea is you keep empowering people so they can make those decisions themselves, so they can be the best version of themselves.
Do you have a client case that comes to mind that was one of the most extraordinary results that you've had?
I do. I had a gay man come to me, and we became friends, just chatting to him. And so I said, I've got this session. Would you like to try? It was my early days when I just started with this, with the heart healing and the soul healing, and I hadn't quite, I'd figured it out, but I was still a bit sort of unsure of it, And he came to me, and we went through the session, just a 1-hour session. It's not over. And I said to him, look, it's going to take a little while to fully integrate for you. Okay, so various beings start working with you and start to integrate that heart energy, start to gather it back again. And he was like, oh yeah, no problem, I'm feeling good. And he left, and he went through a week or so of a roller coaster, up and downs, some real highs, and the next minute the tears and the emotion that came out. And I could see in his energetic structure that things had changed. I can see that. And it was about a month later, he flew back to his home country. And when he came back, he phoned me up and said, you know something, Oliver, I'm a different person. I have this love that's just pouring out of me, and I don't know what to do with it. He says, when I announced to my family in my early 20s that I was a gay man and that I would not be marrying a woman, my mother refused to speak to me. She isolated me. And when I was back home again, I met up with her and I said to her, do you know that I love you? And she broke down, and we healed that relationship.
Oh, wonderful.
And that has been probably the highlight story for me for working with the heart.
That is very powerful.
Yeah.
So then your mission in life is
To save the world.
one heart at a time?
One heart at a time, yes. One heart at a time.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And what we're going to do underneath this video, we're going to put all the ways that we can get in touch with Oliver. And I really recommend, it sounds very efficient too.
It's
right?
it's a great journey to go on. You will learn a lot about yourself. You will learn to expand your energy, and also to keep your energy clean. You forget that we have this physical body which we can feel and touch and know. We know what size it is, and sometimes we're happy with the size, sometimes we're not. But we also have this massive energetic field, which is part of our physical body. You just can't see it, okay, unless you start looking for it. And what happens is that people forget about that part of them. And you think about your aura, which is around you. That is like your force field that stops the outside world from getting in and affecting you.
Right.
So if your aura, your energetic body is clean and healthy, then the outside world's not going to affect you as much as it does.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Wow. Well, we've had I have one more thing for you before we close. I know I asked you in our last conversation, any plans for a book?
Yes, there is a book. It's coming. I have been a little preoccupied with a couple of things that happened in my life. A young family, which is and homeschooling, which is put the delay in things.
Dear, yes.
But they're back to school now, and so next week's all back to school. So there will be some chapters coming out, and there is a rough outline. It will be a practical book, but also a story of things that I've been through in many ways in my life, and how I've grown over this period of 20 odd years of my journey, and how it's affected me, and how it's changed, and how I've seen myself change. And as I've seen myself change, I've seen the world around me change. And so I look forward to actually getting pen to paper and starting that little process. But when I do get it up and out, I will be in contact and definitely let you know all about it.
Well, I definitely want to know, and then maybe perhaps we could do this again and talk about the book and let people know. How does that sound?
Sounds wonderful, yes.
Okay. So this is great. Before we close, Oliver, is there anything you would like to say to the audience that I haven't asked you?
Be kind to yourself. Sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. Sometimes we take things too seriously. Sometimes we just need to smile and laugh. So be kind. And remember, love yourself.
Well, there you have it. Oliver Dolby, the Soul Doctor, and the message is to love ourselves. Until next time on Knowledge is Power, have a great time. And Oliver, thank you.
Adrian, thank you very much.